Hi, everyone. I'm Terry.
And I'm Ella.
Welcome to the Chasing Red Flags podcast, Let's Get Real.
Here, no topic is off limits.
And real beats perfect every time.
Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to where you belong.
You're part of the family now, so let's get real together. Hi, Mama.
Hi, sweetie.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Me too. So excited to be back on the couch.
Yeah. Before we begin, we just want to say thank you so much for being here. It means the world to us. Please subscribe to the Chasing Red Flags podcast, Let's Get Real, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to yours. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch all of the episodes. We have gotten a lot of people reaching out recently after last week's episode. So I would recommend to anybody listening now, if you haven't watched that episode or listened to that episode, go back. It is a very emotional, heavy topic, but I really do think it's worth listening to.
We had an amazing guest.
Yes.
You were really sharing your heart out. And yeah, it's a great episode, and this one will be too. Throughout the season, we've been sharing our advice with all of you on our lived experiences and what we've learned. But today, we wanted to share some of our favorite pieces of advice from other people with all of you.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to do.
And as you know, we're all about destigmatizing mental health, and we want to have open and honest conversations. So I think today's quotes and all of the advice we're going to be giving you covers a wide variety of topics.
So these are our favorite quotes. I think we could have sat here and
There's
for
over
20
100,
hours and done 100 of them. Mm-hmm. So we might have another episode down the line where we do other quotes, but these are the ones we picked for today. We talked a lot about female friendships this season.
Yes.
So I wanted to start off with the first quote.
Go for it.
Okay. Be the woman that fixes another woman's crown without telling the world it was crooked.
I like that.
So I love this quote. I feel like it's an important quote that women need to support women more.
Yes.
I think it's really important. I think there's a lot of women that aren't really supportive and are judgy. And when I hear this quote, I just think about all of the things that you can do to support each other, to compliment each other. You always, you used to get a little embarrassed of me when I went into a store and I was like, oh, I love you in that shirt, to someone random that I had never met before. But it makes an impact.
Yeah.
The little things of making someone feel good and kind of fixing their crown and making them feel good about themselves, I think is important.
Absolutely. I think going off of that a little bit deeper, but I used to have a friend and her parents were going through a divorce at the time, and she was kind of taking over in the mother figure area while her parents were going through what they were doing. And
you were incredible.
I just knew that she kind of needed a little help. We never really talked about it, but I would just go over and I would help cook meals for her younger brother or drive her brother somewhere or sometimes do the laundry at the house. And we never really talked about it, but I knew that she needed that, and I think you can quietly be there for people while allowing them to preserve their dignity, and I think that that's so important.
I do. I think it's important, and I think it's also really important that we share our successes.
Yes.
I know that sometimes when you do really well at something, you're like, oh, I have to tell her so she can do well too.
Yes.
And I think that's, a part of that same messaging of when you do well, instead of holding it in so you're the only one that does well, share it with other people so they can also succeed.
Love it.
Yeah, so
right.
That's my quote. Do you want to go next, or do you want?
No, I'd love to,
okay,
if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go.
Okay. This one really resonates with me, and it's by Maya Angelou, who we love. So, okay. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I love this quote. And
me too.
I mean, I could think of a million examples, but like the first thing that I realized and thought of was when I worked at Dunkin'.
Okay. Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts.
A couple summers ago.
It's actually called Dunkin' now. I know that for a fact.
Oh, they took out the donuts.
Yep, Dunkin'.
Okay. Oh, because they have more than donuts. Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you worked at Dunkin'.
When I worked at Dunkin'.
Formerly Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes, a few summers ago. There were a bunch of regulars that just come in every week. It was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'd see the same faces at the same times. And so they started coming in at like week 3 that I was there. I just started recognizing their orders, taking their orders, and they would pay. And by the time they paid, their coffee would be ready, sitting for them, because I knew what it was and they didn't even have to ask. And I just think that action of me getting their coffee ready and remembering their order and knowing what it was really helped them.
It did. And I will tell you that growing up, I used to always say to you, it's all about the little things.
Absolutely.
So some of those examples, and we've brought them up with you a lot, are technology makes things easy, right?
Yes.
Texting a thank you text when you have a job interview or an email. And I always say to you, handwritten cards, handwritten notes.
Absolutely.
I know that all my friends will tell you they still think I'm crazy, that I am the biggest card giver. I love CVS and Hallmark, and I write cards to people for birthdays.
Even on a white piece of paper, just a handwritten note like
just
that.
some sort of note. Also, I do think it's the little things like when we go out to dinner and you have a couple friends, and I did notice this about you, which I love about you. You had two of your friends went to the bathroom, and when they got back, you had ordered their dessert.
Yeah.
And I know they were like, oh, she remembers I like mint chocolate chip
course.
ice cream. It's those kind of little things that someone's like, oh, she's very thoughtful.
I love
so
it.
I think that's important.
I think, I don't like to bring it to the negative side, but when people hurt you, you don't forget how that feels either.
Right.
So as much as there are the nice things, there are also some hurtful things. And I wouldn't necessarily give this example as something that was hurtful, but it was definitely a mistake on my part. But when I was going through a lot of my mental health struggles, I isolated myself away from a lot of my camp friends.
You did.
And that was really hard. And so I would text them and say, hey, miss you, how are you? But I didn't call or FaceTime them because I knew the second that I heard their voices, I would break down and cry and want to tell them everything. And I wasn't ready to accept it. But they didn't know that. So from their perspective, it looked like I just stopped being friends with them.
Yep.
And that was really hard. And so they didn't forget the way I made them feel. But now I've been changing my actions and I make them feel better. And I'm trying to work harder on that in all aspects of my life.
I think that is so, I'm having a mom moment. I think that's so incredible that you're willing to admit that, but also that resonates with me because I've made so many mistakes, right? And when you make sure that you don't make someone else feel good, from the little things, it's important to point that out. So I give you a lot of credit.
Thank you. I'm going to do one more if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All right. You don't realize how fucked up someone treated you until you explain it to somebody else. And therapy really changed everything for me. And first of all, I think therapy in any way, this can just be talking to somebody, writing in a journal if you can't afford it. I think that you should always be talking to somebody at all times, even if it's yourself. Write it and then read it out loud. It's such a different feeling to hear the words out loud when it's all in a story together.
I think, sorry to interrupt
Please.
you. I think that what happens is, especially what happened with you, is that a lot of people deal with one crisis at a time. And we keep talking about, prevention before the crisis.
And look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, and look at the bigger picture. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, this moment happened, and this moment happened, and this moment happened.
Yeah.
Even with friendships, relationships, even in jobs, and you need to really think about the bigger picture of things and how that affects you as a whole. So you're right.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Is it my turn?
Go for it.
Okay. I picked another Maya Angelou one. Sorry.
Of course.
When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
I really like that. I think
that's basically a lesson in
I was going to say, I think that's the biggest lesson in my life, and I've understood the depth of that. I think character is truly demonstrated by their actions and by what somebody shows you and not what they say, because words only go so far.
Right. And you've spent a lot of time listening to words. I think a lot of people have spent a lot of time
I made
listening to
excuses for people's behavior because they kept saying they wanted to do it, but their actions didn't follow through.
I also think there's examples at school that you've used. For example, you have this, I remember in this class, you have this group, you got assigned a group project, right? And they kept saying to you, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And these guys literally, this entire group of people kept saying to you, I'm going to get the work done. I'm going to get the work done.
I had to do the entire thing.
And I kept saying to you, I feel like they're just saying it. I feel like they're not going to do it. This is an easy class for them. They're not concentrating on it. And then at the end, who ended up doing all the work?
Me.
Right. And I kept saying to you, they're showing you who they are.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
like
all
that one.
different examples of how that one works.
I love it.
Okay.
Can I go?
Yeah, go.
All right. Before you judge someone, walk a mile in his shoes. Eminem, who I love. I think you truly never know what's going on behind closed doors. And you taught me that, and that's something you've always said to me.
I literally have said that
since I was a baby. But I just think people, for example, for me, people assumed that I was happy and nobody had any idea what was going on with me. And I think you just can't assume from what you see how somebody truly is.
I've said to you a million times, take a moment before you respond.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite lines and favorite pieces of advice as a parent. Tell your kids to take a moment before they respond.
Love it.
To the email, to the text. Take a breath.
Reread it.
Reread it a million times. But it's also like sometimes we'll bump into someone and you'll be like, was she a little rude? And I'll be like, and I'll literally say to you, you have no idea what happened 5 minutes before, right? Because sometimes we get in a huge fight and then I'm like, you need to come somewhere with me and you're a little edgy.
Yeah.
And someone thinks, oh, maybe she's edgy with them, but they don't know
But
that
it's
we
really
had
with
just
you.
gotten in a fight.
Yeah.
You
never know.
That you just never know what someone's going through.
And in the nicest, funniest way ever, but you have been told, I've told you, you have a resting bitch face and are a little bit of a loud one. And so people who don't know that, like, you're actually just loud because you're funny and that's your personality. And I mean, resting bitch face everyone has. So I just think
I don't know
nobody
why I
can
have
judge you
that.
until they know you.
Right. I never realized that it's more that I'm always thinking.
Yeah.
No, we
There's
discussed
always
that.
something on your mind.
It's not that
constantly
I'm
running.
bitchy. I just like, I'm always in thought. My mind is always running.
Yeah.
But now I kind of know that about myself. So, I think about it.
Love it.
But I also, with that, believe, and I've always said this to you, if you don't have my cell phone number, if we've never sat across a table and had coffee before, if we've never had a conversation, you don't know me. And same with you. It's like people are very judgmental. And I think that you can hear whatever you hear, but until you really, really get depth with someone and know them, then you don't know them. So don't judge them.
I agree.
I like that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. By Winnie the Pooh.
I love Winnie the Pooh.
You did used to love Winnie the Pooh.
See, I'm telling you, all like animated shows and stuff have the best quotes.
So this quote is all about believing in yourself and having more confidence in yourself.
Yes.
So I feel like that's the most important thing. And when my friendships are good, I feel good. When I'm exercising, when I have purpose in my life, when I'm doing things for others, then I feel more confident in myself and then I become stronger. And that is what I feel that this quote embodies.
I agree. I think I've learned recently to take a lot more chances. And I think people in society is extremely scared to make mistakes or lose because they're scared of they're more scared of what they could lose than what they could gain.
Yes.
And instead, we should be thinking about, if I make this sacrifice, what could I be learning from it? And I think COVID is a great example. There was so much isolation, and I think I learned so much strength throughout that experience and being alone and teaching myself how to adapt
cope.
and cope.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So.
I think everyone did. I think it's definitely changed
Hard time.
the landscape and the mental health landscape of so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when there are like a few quotes that you see and you read them and they literally just like embody you and you're like, that is literally me. I know you send me quotes like all the time.
I send you quotes I'm a big quote person.
Yes, and I love all your quotes, but
So.
there are just a few specific ones that
Do
I'm
you read
like,
every single quote I send you?
Most of them.
Okay.
I'll be honest. But this is what really stood out to me. I think life is very interesting. In the end, some of your greatest pains become your greatest strengths. And this is by Drew Barrymore, who we are obsessed with, and her show is amazing, and she is just so real and open and honest with the people that she talks to on the show.
I mean, that quote to me, I love it, obviously, but
Yes.
there's no self-development without self-awareness.
100%.
That's kind of what the quote says to me, is that the more you develop yourself and the more you are, there's no self-development if you are not more self-aware about yourself.
I think you just need to understand that you're hiding pain and things going on in your life, and that's just gonna keep you more shameful. And instead, you could be making more connections and learning more about yourself, which could help you build yourself up more.
And then there's also, I had spine surgery.
Yes.
And it was a really bad time for me. I was out for almost 3 months. I couldn't drive. And I don't like to ask for help. And that's, I guess we can add that to my red flag list.
You like to do everything yourself.
I do. I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I don't like to ask for help. And when I had my spine surgery, I was a little depressed and lonely and stuck at home, and I couldn't drive you guys anywhere, and I really had to depend on other people. And I found my strength, from that experience. And I think that's what Drew Barrymore is kind of talking about, that kind of experience.
I love it.
Yeah.
Go for it, Mama.
Okay. So my next one is, the only way out is through. And that's by Robert Frost, who you know I love all of his poems. My best friend Kara and I send quotes to each other every day like I send to you. And I feel like this quote specifically is telling you can't put a Band-Aid on pain and have the pain go away. That's kind of what I read out of it.
Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
That's a song, right?
Can't do it.
You can't. You have to go through it. You have to feel everything. She says that all the time. She basically said that about you for so long when I was struggling with what you were going through.
Yeah.
And she was like, she's got to feel it. She's got to go through it. She's got to have those moments.
Like the staying at home, the crying, the looking at memories, the talking to a
oh
therapist.
my God, the opening the box and looking at old pictures.
We're just so taught in society to just move on and be done with it. But like you're allowed to feel it. Feel it so you can feel the pain, cry, and move on.
I think the problem actually is, and I think this is a problem in a lot of friendships and relationships, is that people don't deal with their pain.
Yeah.
And don't deal with what they've been through. They put the Band-Aid on it and then they move on and they go out and party and they move on quickly in a relationship and they don't think about kind of process it, whether you were the person that was hurting someone else or you the one that were being hurt. Either way, it needs to be processed.
Yeah.
And then you take it out on the next person.
Yeah.
And you don't heal. So I would say, just as a mom, you are doing an incredible job with your healing.
Just heal, talk it out, and it'll be okay. On the topic of talking things out, I think one of my favorite quotes as well, because I did this my entire life until recently with all my heartache and pain and life lessons I've learned. But I think, remember, if you're not speaking it, you're storing it. And that shit gets heavy. I think I did this when I got drugged and when I was in all different aspects of my life. When I was sad about friends, I just kept it all in, and it stores and it will build up and it will come out eventually. And instead of having it blow up in your face, talk it out before so you can move on from it.
I always say to you, true depth comes from being vulnerable.
Yes.
And I think that's literally why we built this business, right?
Absolutely.
You are being incredibly vulnerable and you have more depth and people are getting to know you. And I think that that's, important.
Thank you. I have kind of a random quote that I'm throwing in, but we did say it was going to be in all different areas of life. So, and this is a big one because I'm in college and we talk about it, but sometimes you just need some hard-hitting truths on money.
Oh,
and
let's talk about money,
my
Ella.
finance professor says this all the time. Never spend money before you've earned it. Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one. I think it's so easy these days with the amount of technology that we have to go on all these sites and have your credit card in and click and pay and be done. But you're building up credit and you're going to have interest that you're going to have to pay off. And it's just a lot to handle. And so you don't really think about it as much. So before you are spending so much, maybe earn a little more and have some in your back pocket to keep there.
Oh, you're actually listening to all the advice I give you?
I'm learning. I'm trying to do it.
My dad was incredible that way. He had us budget when I graduated, but he also was very big on us always having our own money. There were things that he just was like, well, if you want it, you have to pay for it yourself.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 16 years old, everyone in kind of my area, I don't know if I was 15 and a half or 16 when you got your license back then, but everyone in my area was getting cars.
Okay.
So they could drive to school.
Big deal.
And Papa was like, well, we're not buying you a new car. So he gave me my grandmother, who couldn't drive anymore, white Celebrity Chevrolet. I have to find a picture of it so you could just see what this was. But if you could imagine, the entire front seat of the car went up together. So I don't even think those cars exist anymore. So I was 4'11". So picture any of my friends that were taller than me being in the front seat. They had to literally put their knees up or sit in the back seat.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're lucky to have a car.
That's so funny.
And I remember saying—
But true.
Yeah. And I remember saying, I was lucky to have a car. Listen, I took it. I was so happy. But I also was like, okay, well, I want a new car. I want to be able to buy my own car. And he was like, okay, then get a job.
Yeah.
So I got a job at the Chestnut Hill Mall at this place called Le Croissant. It does not exist anymore. And I wore a black bow tie every day. And once I started making my own money, there was just this feeling of
addicting.
It's addicting, and it was mine. And I worked in college. I worked at a bar, and on Fridays, I would work next to the World Bank, and they would come and get pitchers of beer and give me $100 tip every Friday cash.
That's
and I was like,
awesome.
I worked there all 4 years of college.
Love it.
So I think once you make your own money, and that finance guy is right, save it. And also, I will just say as a parent, don't spend it all when you're needing it. So you work all summer, don't spend it all year. Take a percentage of it and put it away. Because when you graduate, you're going to want some of that money as well. So that would be my advice.
I love it.
All right. So being a mom is a huge part of who I am.
Yes.
And I think the greatest job in the world. So this quote truly embodies my guiding principle to parenthood. It is not what you do for your children, but what you have taught them to do for themselves that will make them successful human beings. And that's by Ann Landers.
Love it.
Being a mom is the hardest job in the world. Being a parent is the hardest job in the world. Being a dad is the hardest job in the world. Having kids is the hardest job in the world. So I think that my job has been to teach you to be independent and go out on your own. But at the same time, and by that, I mean teaching you how to cook and teaching you how to do your own laundry and teaching you how to live. But it's also teaching you to be a good human.
Yeah.
And I've always said to you, none of the other stuff matters if you're not a good person. So I work really hard at teaching you to be honest and empathetic and kind. And I feel like that goes a long way in life. And that's kind of the most important thing to me as a mom, is that you walk away with those qualities.
I think you've done an amazing job, and I have learned so much from you, and I truly hope that I will be half of the mom that you are, teaching these same lessons.
Thank you, baby.
You're welcome. I think it is always important to have just a few motivational quotes. I mean, these are all kind of motivational in a way, but I think these are the ones that we love, especially this week, being new entrepreneurs and trying to guide ourselves through running a business. So this one I chose, it's by Steve Jobs. He said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." I love it. And Dad actually said it to me when we were starting the business. And I think the reason we did start this business is to help people and make a difference for people who feel like they don't have a voice or can't speak up about experiences.
Yeah. I think this quote is all about believing in yourself.
Yes.
And I think that we started chasing red flags to make an impact on people.
And it's a crazy idea.
It's a crazy idea.
Crazy.
But we want to empower people to feel good about themselves in a world that is, very hard to live in right now.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people struggling, and we felt like we could make a difference and we could give people the power to feel better about themselves. And if we can even touch one life, then it's worth doing.
Exactly. And I love it.
Can I go?
Go for it.
Okay. My quote is, "I may not be perfect, but I am worthy," by Mel Robbins. I think this should be the last quote of the day.
Okay.
I think it goes with our entire messaging about us, about you. I love Mel's podcast. She's an incredible motivator. I feel like when I listen to her, she's speaking directly to me. I know you feel the same way. I think there's a lot of self-criticism in this world.
Yes.
And we need to really have more self-acceptance.
I agree. I think there's so many societal pressures to be perfect in every aspect of your life, from jobs to grades to social media and the pictures you post. And if I'm being honest, I have an eating disorder that I've recovered from, and I stayed in an unhealthy relationship for way too long. I have a lot of anxiety. I had a friendship breakup that destroyed me, and I have imperfections and flaws just like everybody else. But that does not mean that I am not worthy of love and true friendship.
I mean, there's nothing much to say other than that.
And success, if I'm going to add one.
Yeah. You deserve everything, sweetie. You're worthy of everything. And I think everyone needs to hear that and know, first of all, that, again, no one is perfect. We all have flaws. And, I think that also comes with knowing that if you make mistakes, and I've made a million and will continue to make them, that we also know how to apologize.
I agree.
And say sorry. And I think that's all a big part of, the whole messaging of the quote.
I think if you stop judging yourself and remember that the right people will love you for the real version of you. And that's all you can do.
All right.
Can't believe it.
So we would love this episode to be interactive. So if you heard a quote that you loved and you want to talk to us about it, definitely get in touch. If you have a quote that you think we should know about, we are both obsessed with quotes and would love to hear. Just
maybe
keep
one
in
we'll
touch.
use for the next episode when we do one.
Absolutely.
Everybody, you are worthy and you are strong and you're going to be okay. And in the meantime, just keep being real, keep being you, and know that we've got your back. If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to say hi, we would love to hear from you. Your support means everything to us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chasing Red Flags Official and on Facebook and YouTube at Chasing Red Flags. And if you want to share your story, ask a question, or pick up some Chasing Red Flags merch, go to chasingredflags.com. The Chasing Red Flags podcast is produced by Jay Del Turco. We are new in this space, so if you enjoyed what you're hearing, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or add a comment and like on our YouTube channel.